Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something pretty interesting to take a look at as we begin taking a look at the Ferocious Pack figures. And we have a very strange looking figure here as we have the Morose Intrepidus, and this is a dinosaur that is seen at the beginning of the prologue for the Jurassic World Dominion film, which is a beautiful few minutes that you can definitely enjoy right now on YouTube of really incredible dinosaur CGI. But what's interesting to me about this figure is I'm starting to wonder if maybe Mattel had absolutely no idea what the Morose was going to look like in the film when they created this figure, because this is very far off from what it looks like in the film. It's a really strange looking figure, and I will say Mattel usually does a pretty okay job of capturing like the likeness of a dinosaur. They're never perfectly accurate, but they're at least kind of, sort of similar close at times, but this one is just really different than what you would expect to see for a Morose. Like, they definitely went the exaggerated route with this one and gave us a very unique looking figure, and I'm really happy in general to have a Morose entering the Jurassic World line, so don't think that I am not just because the figure is a little bit weird looking, but the figure as a whole isn't quite as nice as what I'm used to when it comes to Mattel figures. Regardless, it's still an interesting looking figure, and I will say also straight away that I do like the fact that we actually have an alternate tone of color out here on the tail, so it kind of appears as though like the full body has color rather than coloration ending at the hip region and nothing out here, so that is definitely a plus. The coloration is a little bit nicer than many Mattel figures, even though it's still not great. But then if we take a look here at the back, we only have not much going on, but the fact that over here it shows the DNA code on the back of the figure, and then over here we also have a look at the other three figures that are in this wave of Ferocious Packs. So let's go ahead, pop this out of the box, and check it out. I do want to give a huge shout out to my good buddy Jason Litz, who was able to hook me up with this one, as well as he has definitely scored quite a few Jurassic figures for me lately, and this is yet another of those. And here is our Morose Intrepidus, and I will say it's actually kind of cool, but definitely again looks a bit exaggerated as far as what a Morose would look like. I really do like the way that I guess these would be feathers here running along the back of the dinosaur. I like how wavy they are. Like, it almost looks like he's just walking on a nice breezy day and the wind is just blowing through the feathers there on his back and kind of blowing them all over the place. I think that looks pretty neat. And again, the coloration I actually really do quite like. Definitely a fan of what we have paint-wise for this figure. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Morose, you can see that we have some pretty nice looking scale detail, like larger scaling down here as we reach the jawline, but you can also see that we have the nostrils sculpted out right there. You can't see much because my camera won't focus on it. But again, detail-wise, the face does look pretty nice. We have some pretty nice looking, vibrant scale detail throughout the course of the figure, which is something that you often see from Mattel. You can see the teeth, though, are really big and bulky. Not a big fan of the teeth. Oh, let's see. This jaw is insanely stiff. Whoa, that might be the stiffest jaw I've ever seen on a Mattel figure. So that is definitely the stiffest articulated jaw on any Mattel figure I've ever had, and definitely was a task to get that one open. But you can see the teeth, they don't look very good. The teeth are really big and bulky and just kind of look a little weird. They almost sort of remind me of the Monolophosaurus teeth on the, newer version, the alternate sculpt that we had not long ago for Camp Cretaceous. They just have a big, bulky, kind of an ugly look, but they are painted with sort of like an off-white, so that at least looks okay. The tongue on the inside of the mouth is incredibly nice looking as far as a texturing standpoint goes. Beautiful sculpt in there. You also have some pretty nice paintwork as far as that nice pinkish tone with a really nice gloss coat, which is also a plus. For the face, look at how stiff that is. That is crazy stiff. It really doesn't, it's not like a normal articulated jaw where you can very smoothly articulate it. Like, it'll stay, but like it takes some serious force to get that to move. But as far as the scale detail here on the lower jaw, you can again see some really large scales for the figure, and then we have like some varying sizes of scales, but like right here specifically, like there's some pretty big scales, then you have some smaller ones as you lead back here. You have a nice alternate tone of color, as the majority has like a greenish tone and then kind of like some splotchy orange up here around the face with like a glossy look to it, which is something Mattel really seems to enjoy doing. There's actually some splotchy whites in there as well, which I actually didn't pick up on prior, but the lower jaw has kind of like an off-white as well, so we do have a bit of color variation up here in the face. We do have a yellow eye with a black pupil, and both eyes are actually placed pretty nicely, which is definitely a plus. It's nice to see that we actually have some fairly decent eye paint. You can see the underside sports some pretty nice detailing, although the scale detail is incredibly fine on the lower jaw of the Morose. You can see as we move down the course of the neck that light coloration does continue to run down there. Lots of really nice skin wrinkles, though, in the throat region. You can really see a ton of skin wrinkles right here. I guess the dinosaur has its head positioned down a little bit here. You can see the curve in the neck, and you can see how those wrinkles are really nicely showing that movement. Up here you can see the feathers, or almost quill-like feathers, up here on the top of the head of the Morose. They are just everywhere, all over the place. They are actually quite nicely sculpted. Not incredible, but pretty nicely done. You can see some very nice scale detail here in the neck region as well as you move down the neck of the Morose. And then if we take a look up here at the top, again, look at how beautiful that scale detail is. Like, oh, well, again, it's not going to focus, but that scale detail is absolutely beautiful up here on the top of the head. Really vibrant detailing. You can see the insides there of those feathers on the top of the head of the dinosaur. As you move down the neck, you basically have this whole look for the entire figure, as you have like a row of those quill-like feathers on one side, a row of quill-like feathers on the other side, and then just the scaly appearance running down the back of the dinosaur. And it continues to look that way through the entire course of the figure as we lead out all the way out into the tail. Very unique look for this one. And then as you move down here into the body, again, the scales are super nice, very reptilian looking scale detail, very lizard-like or snake-like. As we move down into the arm, you can see the arm is that same kind of an off-white that we have for the lower jaw and the underside of the dinosaur. Pretty nicely sculpted arms, as we can see some muscle definition, and then the hands look okay again. Pretty much like a generic Mattel dinosaur hand sculpt. And you can see the nails, unfortunately, do not have paintwork on them, which is pretty much to be expected, I would say. And then moving back up here, you start to see more of that orange pick up again in like the shoulder blade area and just kind of splotch along as we move out the course of the body. You see more of those quill-like feathers, and they kind of increase and decrease in size as you run along the back of the dinosaur. You have very nice muscle definition here in the thigh, and again, that scale detail continues to look beautiful on the figure. Again, extremely vibrant scale detail. Very, very reptilian, like I stated before. Like, it just generally looks like what I would see on a lizard. And as you move down, you can kind of make out the kneecap there in the front of the leg. The calf muscle back there is nicely bulging as you lead down into the foot. The foot sculpt is absolutely massive for no reason whatsoever. We have no nail paint and just possibly the largest scoots I've ever seen down the course of the toes of this figure. And you can see that those feet, they don't look super terrible from the side, but they do look big. But when you look at them from up above, like, that's an absolutely massive foot sculpt. You do have dew claws, though, which is a plus, and I actually like that the dew claws kind of lead back like this. You don't often see Mattel give their dinosaurs dew claws that look like that, so that's pretty cool. As you lead up here, again, you can see a few more skin wrinkles and skin creases leading out into the tail. The splotchy orange is about to overtake the tail completely. As you can see, once we reach the joint here where the tail articulates, the orange has pretty much begun overtaking the tail. You see a little bit more of that green up here before the entire tail is nothing more than that orange, and I do like that because, again, it gives it some nice coloration from head to toe as far as, well, head to tail, not toe, but head to tail as far as the figure goes, giving some color difference. And again, the detailing looks great as you move out the length of the tail. More really nice detailing as you have lots of, again, gorgeous scaling, quill-like feathers here running along the back. Nice curve in the tail here, as you can see a very almost snake-like curve to the tail. And you also have some very nice detailing here on the underside of the Morose. Even the undersides of the feet look great. You can see, though, that off-white does end in the chest. Unfortunately, I would have at least liked to have seen it end up in the groin before the entire tail transitioned to an orange, but again, that's not what we get. If we turn it around, though, you can see that as far as, the sculpt and paint, everything looks pretty much the same over here as what it did on the initial side. The hands look pretty much the same as what we saw there On the opposing side, you can see again the detailing of the stomach region looks great. A little bit of bulkiness in the stomach of our Morose. Definitely seems to have been feeding fairly well. You can see a few skin wrinkles and stuff there. You can also take note to the fact that the leg is in a different position over here compared to the other side, as the other side is leading. This leg is trailing. Again, an absolutely massive foot sculpt, and I feel like the tail is quite a bit too short, but regardless, it's still a pretty cool figure. Again, even though it doesn't, perfectly match up to what the Morose looks like in the Jurassic World Dominion prologue, it is still a pretty cool figure. We do have the scan code here. If I can get it out, there's sometimes such a pain to pull out, but there is the scan code to add this to your collection if you would like. Again, we have the Jurassic World logo on the opposing side. This one isn't quite as obnoxious as some others. I'm not too sure why this one doesn't bother me that much, but it's also kind of hidden by those quill-like feathers up there as well. But still a pretty cool figure. I'm definitely warming up to it, and although, again, it's not an incredibly awesome version of a Morose, it is a Morose regardless, so having a Morose enter the Jurassic World line is definitely awesome if you ask me. As far as articulation goes on our Morose, yet again we have the articulated jaw, which is sort of wearing in a little bit, but still really stiff. We have articulation in the neck. You can totally swivel the head around if you would like to, and also, again, go up and down. That articulation is really smooth, so that's definitely a plus. And then you have articulation in the arms, forward and back, articulation in the legs, forward and back, and then the articulation in the tail on a swivel. Pretty much your standard as far as, like, an attack pack, wild pack figure goes, although they're now ferocious packs, considering that's what these ones are now called. But as far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about the 7.5 inches or 19 centimeter range, and then for a height at the position that it's in right now, about 3¼ inches or around 8.5 centimeters, somewhere in that vicinity. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Morose, and you can see that it falls right there in that same similar, Attack Pack, Wild Pack size range as all of the previous figures that have come before it goes, showing that, again, the figure does sport a pretty good size for being a Morose, but is not really large by any means. And then for a few more comparisons, here is the recent Extreme Damage Velociraptor, again, showing you that when it comes to a size, they're roughly similar size as to what a Velociraptor would be in the Mattel Jurassic World line. And since it's here, right next to me, we also have the Dimetrodon that has recently released, the Extreme Damage Dimetrodon. We also have a Kenner Young Rex, again, showing you that the size, as far as the Rex goes, is way taller, but not too far off as far as body mass. We've also got a Hasbro Ceratosaurus, which was one of my favorite figures from the Hasbro line, although not anything that can even remotely compete with a Mattel Ceratosaurus, but you can get a good idea, again, roughly of the size. Just bringing in basically random figures because I don't have any Morose in my collection at all, so I really don't have any figures to compare it with. And then for a final comparison, we'll just bring in a Collect Day Dimetrodon, a figure that, again, many people that probably watch my channel would have in their collection. So definitely a pretty decent sized figure, I guess, as far as the, standard wild pack, attack pack size range goes. So this Jurassic World Dominion Morose from Mattel is definitely a fun figure, but again, it's pretty far off from what the Morose looks like in the Jurassic World Dominion prologue. But, as upsetting and sad as that is, because I would have really liked to have seen a more accurate looking version, well, not really accurate, but screen accurate compared to the Dominion version, it's still a pretty fun figure. I will say that Mattel has done a pretty good job of giving this an incredibly unique look compared to many other figures that they've had in the past. Like, it's not often that you see a figure that really stands out due to how unique it looks, but this is definitely one of those. This is a figure that you really wouldn't mistake for anybody else because the way that they have sculpted out those quill-like feathers kind of running down along the body, very unique, and I love the fact that they kind of look wavy, like I said earlier. It almost looks like the wind is just kind of blowing through the feathers of the dinosaur and kind of making them look really wavy. Just almost takes you into the moment that this dinosaur would be standing there, which I think is pretty cool. The coloration as well is pretty nicely done. It's not my favorite paint job from Mattel, but I like the fact that we have color difference from the head to the tail, and it overall looks like the majority of the body has color, except for, of course, the nails, which is a consistent complaint that we'll probably never stop complaining about. But again, the tones of color used are pretty cool. I like the oranges and stuff. Not a super huge fan of the tone of green we have, but it's okay. And the paintwork is also really quite nice and precise. We have some fun articulation as well, but the articulated jaw is the stiffest Mattel articulated jaw I've ever had the pleasure of trying to open. I don't know if it's like that on all of them or just mine, but the articulation outside of that works pretty nicely. And as a whole, I do like the figure. It's definitely an interesting one from Mattel. Again, not an accurate Morose by no means, but still an okay figure. So if you are interested in picking this up, make sure you head to your local Walmart and I believe also Target, and you could probably score this at least after April 17th. You'll most definitely have an opportunity to score this at both of those places, but as of right now, I know Walmart themselves have been putting it out. So make sure you check those stores, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.